Today we are going to be talking about shin splints, pre-workout drinks, and what to eat before a game. Welcome to episode 22 of Run It Straight. Okay, today first, Chris wanted to say something.
Yes, we have our new shirt designs for a new program. So our off-season program has now started. Never too late to join. But yeah, new shirts.
I think we have like 2 spots left.
I think 2 spots.
Although, is this going to go up today, Smith? Oh no, so it'll go up today. So we've got about two spots left in the program. So if you're keen, jump in there while you can. All right, question number 1. Hi guys, my son is 17, having issues with legs, shins and calves, playing rugby league. Any ideas? Thank you. That one came in via Instagram. Chris, where would you like to start on that one? So obviously we're thinking shin splints here.
Yeah. So there could be a couple factors. Obviously we need to do some assessments, make sure it's not some weaknesses, but I'm going to assume that it's tightness issues and shin splints from when you're running. You look at ankle mobility, so there's a couple of things that you can do for mobility, getting more range through the joint, but most importantly, soft tissue work and stretching is the way to go. There's a video which I think we can add a link to, Spiro, and Joe will touch more on that.
Yeah, like what he said, soft tissue work, and that can be foam rolling, using a trigger ball. It can be self-massage. We've got a video that talks you right through how to do that. It's very, very simple. You can get massage oil, you can use baby oil, you can use coconut oil is usually what I tell people to use. But everything about that is on the video, which we'll link in the notes. Outside of that, you can actually go and see a professional massage therapist and get them to do work. It will hurt a lot. Calves is one of the most painful areas to work on, particularly if it is an area of tightness and a problematic area for you. A couple of things that I'd want to look at as well is I would say, okay, he's 17. What is your son's workload look like as far as running? So one of the things whenever we get new players come in here to work with us and we want to try and we test them and their cardiovascular fitness isn't where it needs to be, obviously we need to improve that. One of the things we need to look at is how many kilometers, let's say, are they doing per week? What is their current workload? Training wise, because one of the most common times that you see shin splints and lower limb issues come along is when they increase the volume of work far too quickly. Typically, we don't want to see you increasing it by too much more than 10% per week. So you might think at first, okay, that's not much of a jump, but it builds up quick enough over time. So that'll be one of the first things I'd look at. Secondly, I would look at the training surface that they're actually training on. Are they running roads and running on concrete and cement, or are they running on grass? You could look at training shoes. Are they, worn down old sneakers that they've been training in for 12 months that actually haven't got much cushioning? That's going to play into it as well. Like we talked about, soft tissue work. Another thing which is a big thing, no pun intended, is how big the player is. You've said 17, but you haven't given us some context for, we've got some 13 and 14 year olds that are tipping the scales at 120 plus kilos in the program. And the running prescription for them is going to be very different to, we've also got a 16 year old who's at 57 kilos, and I've got a 19 year old who's at 71 who definitely needs to gain some weight. So what we would be giving to each of those guys is not the same thing. So if you've got someone who is bigger and heavier, put it this way, the worst combination will be someone who hasn't been doing anything, who's jumped into a whole lot of training, who is tight and who is big. Yep. So they need to get their body fat levels down. So you've got to use non-contact forms, or at least integrate in non-contact forms of cardio. So, boxing, cross trainer, rower, bike, swimming, even just simply walking is nowhere near as bad. But we want to get the cardio in, get the extra caloric expenditure in. We've talked about it a million times. You've got to be looking at your diet. If you want to get weight down, you have to be looking at your diet. All of those factors are going to play into that.
Yeah, just to add to that. The most important, I think, out of all of them, you need a combination of all of those, but the most important would be the muscle releases. So doing your self-massage or getting a sports massage therapist to dig into it. It's not something that gives you an immediate result. It's something that you need to do ongoing, but you will notice a difference. So let's say after the first massage, you might be able to run an extra K, an extra K without burning, and then the next time around, if you follow up with that massage, you might be able to go a little bit further, 500 meters.
There's a difference.
And it builds up every time.
There's a difference between, like, if you've actually developed, or so many people, I've got shin splints, I've got shin splints. Less than 5% of those people actually have shin splints. They've just got tight calves. But tight calves, if you keep pushing and you keep pushing and you keep the workload up, and this can lead to shin splints. And when you get shin splints, this is not something which is just going to go away quickly. You think about, okay, well, how long since I started doing a whole ton of work? Maybe it was over 10 weeks. Well, you know what? It's probably going to take at least 10 weeks of backing off of the workload for those shin splints to settle down. And that's with stretching, and that's with soft tissue work. So there is no easy fix once it's gotten to that shin splint state. So what we would always say is, if there's any tightness, you've got to get rid of it as much as possible. Okay, so that it's an indicator. Like, it's rare that you're going to have someone who develops shin splints who they've got nice mobility and they're nice and soft through the calf. It's usually wound up tight as it can be. Anything else? There was something else I was going to say, and now I have lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. It'll come back to me. All right. Question number 2. Anonymous, what's the best food to eat before a game? Chris?
Yeah, look, I'll start off by saying night before, carb loading, especially if you're trying to lean out or eating quite clean. I would definitely carb load, a day or two beforehand, so you're not carb loading too much on the day of the game. That'll just give you that little bit more of an energy on game day. And then on game day, I think actually we were talking about this earlier. I'll let you touch on it.
Oh yeah, no. Look, like I was saying, eating, particularly if you're someone who's been trying to lose weight throughout the season, and Thursday, Friday, if you're going to play on the Saturday, you want to up your calories, you want to up your carbohydrates and whatnot. Routine is super important. So if you know that this is one of those things, what's the secret food? And like we've said with so many things, there isn't any secret to a whole lot of this. But what's best to eat before a game is what you feel best when you play. Look at, okay, well, what did I eat then? And then try to replicate that. Okay, so routine is super important. And when it comes to game day itself, to be honest, I don't think it's going to play into your performance. I think more so your state of mind and what you eat and the fact that you feel prepared is going to play into it a lot more than the specific macronutrient breakdown of what it is that you're eating.
Yeah, can I touch on that?
Yeah.
100% it's the preparation leading into game day rather than what you do the morning of game day. As long as you're not, obviously don't eat nothing, but besides that, it's the preparation leading up to game day rather than game day.
So I'll give you a story of a mentor of mine who is a international strength coach that he was talking about once. And I'll probably get some of the details a bit fuzzy, but the main parts of it were, anyway, he's training Olympic level. I think she was a aerial skier, so they go and they do all the flips and everything else, and they got to land it. And anyway, it came to this was at an Olympic Games, and he was with her, and they went into the I don't know, what do you call it, where everyone goes in and eats. All the athletes, they go into it's like a food hall thing.
The lunchroom type.
Yeah, it's in the Olympic Village. Anyway,
Olympic Village.
So they go in there, and basically he gives her free range to pick whatever she would like to eat. So you know what she picks, and okay, I'm not recommending this, but she goes, and it was cheeseburger and fries and like a chocolate milkshake, a chocolate thick shake. And she's sitting there eating it, happy as can be. And he said, if you don't mind me asking, why is it that's what you picked? And she said, well, it puts me in a good mood. And he said, why? He said, well, when I was a young girl, and to get to the Olympics, skiing, something like that, you got to put a lot of time in it. When I was like 9, 10, 11, and my mum would pick me up from training, when we'd come back, we'd always stop off. And that was kind of like the treat at the end of the week for all of the work that she'd been doing, training for aerials. And anyway, so she had a lot of good memories. It put her into a really good state, remembering a time that she enjoyed, just her and her mum spending time together at the end of a week of work. And so for her, that put her into a really good mental place to be able to perform. The funny thing was, she was in there and a lot of the other competitors were coming in and eating at the same time. I think it might have been maybe 4 hours before their event. And, you know, they had their grilled chicken breast and their steamed sweet potato or rice, whatever it was, and their water, and they're sitting there with their coaches and looking over thinking, what on earth is she doing? Anyway, she went out qualifying. She qualified number 1 in front of everyone else, and then 3 days later when they were coming for their for the medals, for the finals or whatever it was, she went in, she had her same meal, and the strength coach said all the other girls came in and they all sitting there, they all had cheeseburgers and chips and milkshakes. So the point is, it's not, provided you're not eating something stupid, and their event is very different. Like football is a field-based sport where you're going to have to run and you're going to have to run and you're going to have to run a lot. For them, it's not so much like that. You know, it's the whole event is over in like 3.5 seconds. So you do need to bear in mind that I'm not recommending anyone go out and eat a burger beforehand. But what I'm saying is find a routine that you're happy with, that you feel like when I eat this way, I'm good for a game, and run with that.
Yep. I'm happy with that.
Cool. Okay, question number 3. Should I be taking pre-workout? And this isn't anonymous. This was one of the boys. Spiro, who asked that?
I can't remember. I wrote it down.
Well, obviously something is missed in translation. So the question is, should I be taking pre-workout? It was Billy, was it? All right, this was Billy or Tony. All right. First, I would like to say what we say almost every time someone asks a question like this. It depends. Okay, so, and that goes for so much of what we get asked in every day in the program, both by players and parents. It depends. Like my response is so standard that when someone asks me a question like that, I'll say to them, well, how long is a piece of string? They then stare at me for 4 or 5 seconds and they're like, oh, you mean it depends, right? It's like, yeah, okay, so there's a lot of things. Yes, one of the boys will come in and say, I've heard food A is good. Should I eat that? It's like another one, you know, someone not long ago, I saw this video on TikTok of this guy saying that this is the best exercise to do for speed. Joe, I'm slow. Should I do this exercise? Okay, so response is usually the same. It depends. There's definitely a few questions that we would say a flat out no to. And these are things I've been asked. Joe, I was thinking, should I take steroids? No. Should you only sleep 4 hours per night to give you more time to train? No. Well, this was a great one. I was thinking that I should train chest 3 days in a row to get the biggest chest ever, bro. Well, bro, that's a big no on that one. So look, while it's true that there's going to be some questions that are going to be definitive flat no's, generally speaking, it all depends. So the original question, should I be taking a pre-workout? It depends. So let's say someone comes in to train and they normally sleep really well, and for whatever reason, maybe they were up late with work or with schoolwork, or the neighbour's dog was barking and they've only got 3 or 4 hours sleep and they come in and they're tired. That's an occasion. When they come in, their energy levels are below normal. They want to train, but they're just feeling right flat. That's when we would say, look, pre-workout be real good. Absolutely. Keeping in mind that afterwards, after they take it, they're probably going to come down. If they don't have caffeine at all, they definitely might have an up and then a real downer after that. You want to inform them of that so they know they're going in. But in that case, yeah, 100% that might work. Now, if this is a person who has been living on 2 or 3 of these things a day, or they drink 2 or 3 cups of coffee and they have a couple of pre-workouts, first thing I could say is you should probably get off it altogether and give yourself a couple of weeks to develop some sensitivity to it again. And then if you want to use it, go back to using it sparingly. At best, 1 or 2 workouts a week is probably all I would recommend. Otherwise, it ends up becoming a crutch. It ends up becoming something that you have to constantly lean on and you can't do well without it. Remember earlier on we were talking about eating the food that puts you in a good state. When it gets to the point where I'm not in a good state unless I can have 2 pre-workouts before you train, you have a problem. So you need to fix that problem, which means unfortunately headaches and everything else as you go through a bit of a fast from your stimulants.
Yeah.
Chris, anything else you want to?
Oh yeah, I'll touch on that. From experience, I've seen plenty of people reliant on pre-workouts to the point where, like Joe mentioned before, they won't be able to train unless they have 1 or 2 pre-workouts.
Or play. It's the same thing.
Play,
like,
yep.
yeah,
Yep.
you got to get yourself up for a game. You shouldn't need to be sitting there smashing can after can of.
Exactly. But to the point where they take a huge dose and they get really pumped up for their gym session or their game, and then afterwards when it wears down, you see them just sitting there with their head down, all depressed for about an hour to 2 hours after it.
Yeah.
So that to me is not something that's sustainable. I would definitely not recommend it if you're like that. As Joe said, detox from it, create some sensitivity to it, and then use it when you need it on occasions where you're exhausted, no sleep, or if you're testing, got a big session. So you want to have it up your sleeve so when you need to rise up to a big occasion, you can.
Yeah, it's a bit of a boost button on occasion, you can push it.
Exactly.
But you don't hold down the boost button or it stops.
No.
That doesn't work.
Exactly. And look, for someone like myself who is caffeine sensitive, I have no coffee ever. Don't like coffee. Yep, I know. So if I was to have a pre-workout, I would be bouncing off the walls. Again, that'll be really good for if I'm doing a testing session or if I need to get that extra little bit, but I'm not going to use it every single day.
Think of it like this. If you play, which you probably do, you play FIFA. I have not played a FIFA game for, I don't know, like 20 years. I'm assuming, have you played it? Is there a sprint button?
There is a sprint button.
There's a sprint. So think of it like this. If you push and hold the sprint button and you only hold the sprint button, pretty quickly, the player is no longer sprinting. Think of it like that, okay? Just a little tap at the right time and place, use it then. But if you just sit there and hold the button down, it stops working, the player gets fatigued. It's kind of like that, okay? It's a little bit of a boost. You don't want to use it all the time. It can become useful as a tool when used in context, when used at the right time. So in answer to your question, it just depends.
Yeah.
That's going to do us for today. So please, if you have any questions, send them in. Pretty much they all come in via Instagram, so send them in via Instagram. We do also mention every week, give us context. So give us as much detail. I'm 17, 182 centimeters, and I weigh 103 kilos. My bench is this, my squat is this. How can I get stronger? Something like that gives us a fair bit more to work with, and we'll give you as much help with that as what we possibly can. Other than that, like we've said, we've got a couple of spots left in the program. Please contact us as quick as you can, because I think we've got 3 or 4 people that we're working through at the moment to see if they're the appropriate people to fit in. So if you want to get a spot, give us a buzz, and we'll try and get it teed up for you. Cool?
Perfect.
All right, we will see you in the next one. Cheers.